Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are having a great start to your day, and I appreciate you folks joining me this morning as we try to figure out what's going to happen weather-wise for today specifically. We got a few areas to watch in regards to strong, severe thunderstorms. You got some areas popping off already this morning. You got some strong storms in southern Mississippi that will eventually, in the next hour or two, drift into southern Alabama. You got what we call an MCS, which is a mesoscale convective system that's sweeping across and along the immediate Gulf coastline and maybe about 30 to 60 miles inland also. We'll see what that does over the next several hours. It has a chance to produce an embedded spin up, so we need to talk about that. It's kind of a now thing, but we'll also watch additional thunderstorms that develops kind of a little bit further north in the mid-south areas, northern Alabama, Mississippi. And we're just trying to figure it out for you guys. There's definitely a couple areas we need to discuss. And I just want to remind y'all, this setup that we've been in, it's been pretty, I would call it pretty active over the last few days. It's kind of one of those setups where you'll go to bed and your area might only be under like a marginal risk, a level 1 out of 5, and then you'll wake up and you're under a slight risk. So this is kind of one of those things where the threat level could increase in a very short amount of time. So definitely pay attention to the latest updates. I'm not foreseeing any kind of major outbreak in the next couple of days, but those areas that might only be in a marginal risk that could upgrade here in the next day or two. Watching the weekend's a kind of a tricky setup where we could have a washout or we could have maybe severe weather Sunday, but we'll get detailed on all this tomorrow. Tonight. Tomorrow could be a big severe weather day again for Texas, and we'll certainly try to break that down. With that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. Asking for prayers. I've been struggling with my videos lately, just talking with a really good flow. I've had to start over my videos often, and every time I have to start over my video, whether I'm just 30 seconds in, 2 to 3 minutes in, it's more time that takes away from my family. It's time that I lose, so especially in the mornings where I have to jump off these videos really fast and hop in the shower, take my girls to school, and get to work just on time. So definitely just asking for prayers I can get my flow back. And this happens. It happens when you make videos 1 or 2 times a day, every day. You just kind of lose a little bit of a flow. Not motivation, just kind of your flow. So definitely asking for prayers about that. Not a big deal, but definitely appreciate that. Water vapor loop out there. You got the spin. This spin is helping to bring a moist air mass into the Gulf states, but it's mainly hugging the immediate Gulf Coast. You got to be literally along the Gulf Coast or in the Gulf of Mexico or maybe just an hour inland north. But this is fueling the atmosphere ahead of this complex area of storms that's working its way through Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and will continue to work east and promotes damaging wind threat, large hail threat, and a tornado threat throughout the next several hours into this afternoon. Could get some storms to fire up in Wyoming, western Nebraska today, a little bit of snow in the higher elevations. And some of this rain will eventually make it into Georgia and the Carolinas late this evening into the overnight hours, which I'm really looking forward to that. We really need some rain here in the Midlands of South Carolina. Spring rain is always the best rain. Everything's blooming, and it prevents people from having to use too much of their actual water, whether they're using well water or city water. I'm blessed to have well water, thank God, because I use a lot of water between my girls playing with the water hose or me just using my irrigation system, whatever it may be. But we'll zoom in on the south with this, but this is the Storm Prediction Center for today. You got a slight risk down here deep in Texas, more of a conditional threat. There's a chance maybe nothing really fires up. You got some storms ongoing right now, though. You got that marginal risk up here. Small hail is possible, some gusty winds. We'll discuss this towards the end of the video. But this is really the big area right here, slight risk up. And we'll get more detailed on this here in a second, so bear with me. But you got the tornado threat, 5% risk, wind threat, 15% risk, and the hail threat, which is larger down here. But like I said, it's conditional. Nothing may fire up. But there's no real hatched risk in these other areas. But you're going to have another active day in Florida. What's wild to me of what happened yesterday is the hailstorm in and around the Savannah area. Not sure if you folks who live in the Southeast, I know most people know where Savannah is. I've heard of the city of Savannah, Georgia. They had a pretty huge hailstorm yesterday that covered the ground. And of course, we all heard not everybody, but most of us heard what happened in Florida yesterday with the hail that made it look like it'd been snowing in Melbourne, Florida. It covered the interstates, roads, house yards, things like that. But it could be another day like that. watching a flooding threat, and this is kind of ongoing right now, slight risk. And like I said, just hugging the immediate Gulf coastline. That's at least a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met down here. Marginal risk everywhere else. Could get some, heavy rain, but definitely not expecting a flooding risk. So let's talk about the southeast. So zooming in on this area, you got this large area with a slight risk of severe thunderstorms. And, there's two areas to watch. One is an area ongoing right now. Let's go on and talk about that. That is this area of storms. This is a very powerful storm. This is Mobile, Alabama, Gulfport, Mississippi. So you got the Alabama-Mississippi state line right here. First off, this storm is going to move inland. Okay, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I don't do live. Maybe one of these days I will. But this storm will move inland, could affect areas like Mobile, point south. And this has that look to it. It kind of has that little hook signature to it. This is producing hail out in the ocean right now, no doubt. And then this one is creating a very loud morning just south and southeast of Wiggins, Mississippi. This is definitely a big storm right here. And then you got the main line right here. We'll see how much this holds together as it heads towards Baton Rouge, New Orleans. But regardless, we zoom out a little bit right here. We expect this entire area to either get rejuvenated or to just maintain. And it's going to bring some nasty weather into this circle area throughout the next several hours into the afternoon hours. You cannot rule out a tornado or two embedded in this line. No tornado warnings as of right at this moment. But that could be different by the time some of you folks are watching this. That's why you got the slight risk. It covers that same circled area I just talked about. And this is really just because of this energy this morning. We'll try to refire. Additional convection showers and storms will fire up, and we'll have to watch it and see how it's acting when it gets all the way into southwest Georgia. But I would not be surprised if the marginal risk is extend a little bit further northeast into South Carolina. I'm expecting Atlanta, Columbia, Augusta, Charlotte to get some rain later this evening and maybe some rumbles of thunder. I'm looking forward to it, ready for a good evening thunderstorm. One thing I want to mention here is would not be surprised one bit if the slight risk gets extended a little bit further north into Mississippi and Alabama. Latest short-range model guidance support some supercells. You're just lacking thermodynamics. You're not going to get a big tornado threat, I don't think, with it, but you could get a large hail threat. Some of these storms that fire up a little bit later today could produce some large hail, but there's a tornado threat. You got that 5% risk in that brown area of a tornado within 25 miles of any given location. You got a hail risk today. Would not be surprised if this area connects and maybe you get a 15% risk of a hail in this region that's 1 inch diameter or larger. Okay, and then you got the wind threat today, which makes sense because you got this kind of line of storms sweeping along the Gulf coastline. So please be aware of this. And really, guys, the reason why the severe weather threats have really been pretty far south is because you got a lot of cool, stable air up here. You got dew points in the 50s, and especially in the 40s, but 50s and lower typically do not support severe thunderstorms. Now, you can get severe thunderstorms, especially storms that produce hail, because to me, dew points in the 50s symbolizes cold, dry air aloft, which, if you don't know, that's one indicator for hail and storms. But if you look at the dew points way down here, these are current dew points. Well, I think dew points about 30 minutes ago. You got dew points in the 60s, 70s, and typically when you have dew points this high, you're going to have higher CAPE levels in this region. So that is why you have all these strong to severe storms so far south in this region. So let's take a look at the HRRR model today and how this can unfold. It's doing okay verifying, but these storms will continue. They will kind of grow in convection. This is around lunchtime. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. This is around 11 a.m. lunchtime today. These storms will continue. They will get deeper into the panhandle of Florida, far southern Alabama. I would say once you kind of get into Montgomery to Birmingham, more stable conditions. But I want to show you something here in a second. But these storms will continue. They could get dangerous in the western panhandle of Florida later today. These storms could be severe in the southwest of Georgia, and these continue, and then we'll watch some robust thunderstorms that really get going along the eastern coast of Florida a little bit later today. But this is a long line of storms, and check out all this rain moving into South Carolina. Could get some storm action, and then check out the storms that fire behind this. These could be intense also. Let's go on and zoom in on this and see what's going on. You keep this going over the next couple hours, and these storms, I would say, really begin to fire off in the panhandle of Florida as early as later this morning, and then we get around lunchtime. These storms could really be creating a ruckus at this point. Damaging winds, hail, an embedded tornado threat. You got to watch for any storms that kind of come on shore into this region. I would not be surprised to hear about waterspouts or maybe seawater spouts if you're along the coastal regions sitting on the beach, which I hope you won't be, because it will be blinding rain in the panhandle of Florida, Mobile, Alabama, things like that. But these storms will be kicking, they'll be rolling, and they will continue along the panhandle of Florida into the Big Bend areas of Florida, into North Florida. And then these storms could be intense up here, but then we watch as we're getting into 5, 6 p.m., watch out how more scattered convection gets going. And these storms have that look to them, right? They kind of had that kidney bean look to them, if you will, where they're hooking a little bit. But I'm not expecting much of a tornado threat. But I could see, and I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about these storms anywhere in Mississippi. They could be very isolated. Alabama, later this afternoon into the evening hours. Some of these storms producing some big-time hail as more cooler air aloft kind of moves into this region. And we could certainly see some severe thunderstorms after this main convection flies through to the south as we get into the late evening hours. Don't be surprised, certainly Meridian, Oxford, Montgomery, Alabama, Birmingham, you guys could definitely see some intense storms, and they could really become more widespread here in southern Mississippi, southwest Alabama as we get later in the evening. And if I was to look at the long-range HRRR model, this is kind of an older run, so it's not really picking up on it very well. Some of the new models, the new model runs of the HRRR model are. So we'll see how this verifies a little bit later today. But, don't think you're free here in Alabama and Mississippi just because there's not a whole lot going on to the north right now. Some storms could fire up. The updraft Felicity swath, it does pick up on some of those storms up here with some spinning updrafts. But if you notice, the highlighted areas are all kind of along the Gulf coastline. Embedded spin-ups could really get going here. And I wouldn't be surprised one bit, guys, if we get a quick spin-up down here. Please, if you get under a tornado warning from like Gulfport to Mobile to over here to Tallahassee, Pensacola, please take it serious, because chances are it's not going to be this photogenic tornado that you're going to see coming. It's probably going to be rain-wrapped, embedded in all this convection, showers and heavy rain and storms and things like that. So please take this serious. Moving a little bit further east into Georgia, and these storms will move in as early as, I would say, just after lunchtime in southwest Georgia. Could pack a punch, especially the further south you are in the state of Georgia and southwest areas of the state. And we keep this going, and some rain can make it all the way into Atlanta later this afternoon, and then I reckon it'll probably get along the Georgia-South Carolina state line probably around dinner time today, later this afternoon. And then we could definitely get some storm action. It's the Midlands of South Carolina, definitely the low country of South Carolina later this evening, right when you're putting the kids down to sleep or just chilling out for the night. Not be surprised if some heavy rain moves in pretty quickly out of Georgia. Here in South Carolina, definitely could get some storm action around Savannah again. Like I said, the Hilton Head, Huntington Island areas, coastal regions of Georgia. And you definitely can get some more intense storms working its way through just after sunset, leaving the eastern panhandle of Florida into the Big Bend areas of the state. And then you could get another round of showers and storms into the Jacksonville area a little bit later tonight. But the severe weather threat, the further north and northeast you work, is going to lessen just because you're lacking ingredients for severe weather. But Florida, you're going to have the ingredients again. You're getting into 2, 3 p.m. this afternoon. Bang, these storms fire up in kind of north central Florida. And they could produce some strong storms. Large hail is possible. Once again, I don't think the hail threat is as big as it was yesterday. In fact, I know it isn't. But watch out, St. Augustine, even down here near the Space Coast. Down here, probably would say closer to Miami. I would say not as big of a risk. But you get about the middle way up the eastern coastline of Florida, some big storms are possible. Do not let these catch you off guard. I'm sure you're not, because you've been dealing with this for almost a week now in Florida. But these storms can be quite powerful. Yesterday's hail threat was quite rare. And some people find this hard to believe, but the reason you had that huge hail threat is because of the EML, elevator mixed layer, that traveled basically an area of dry air aloft that traveled all the way from the Mexico plateau all the way across the Gulf of Mexico into the state of Florida. And that dry, coolish air aloft helps for storms to drop a lot of hail. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. It was actually in the discussion and everything. So that's very rare. You don't see that often. So please be careful along the south. Today, the Northeast, you're dealing with some rain showers in and around the New York City area, Long Island, some heavier rain. These will kind of continue to develop and drift into the southern New England areas all throughout the morning and the afternoon hours, even in the evening hours. And then by the time you get into the nighttime hours, they start to diminish. But you got some rain that kind of moves in from the southwest, moves into West Virginia as early as around 9-10 p.m. this afternoon or this evening. Raining in Kentucky. Rain begins to overspread the entire state of Virginia by the time you get into the overnight hours. And then, rain knocks on the doorstep of the Washington, D.C. area around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning. And definitely could be waking up to some rainy conditions anywhere from Detroit to Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Roanoke, Richmond. Everywhere in West Virginia will be pretty damp, and this will continue into tomorrow. South central U.S., you're dealing with some storms along the coastline of Texas this morning. But as you're getting into this afternoon, you could get some strong storms that form in the southern tip of Texas, not Florida. You know how I like to mix my states up. But there's a chance no storms get going. A little bit of a cap in place. We have to see what's going to happen with that. But you'll be dealing with some cold core showers in Arkansas, southern areas of Missouri. These showers could produce a little bit of hail in Arkansas today, north of Little Rock. Don't be surprised if some of these showers and storms in central Arkansas do produce some hail. And then this will kind of roll through Memphis. I wouldn't be surprised later this evening into western Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, and northern Mississippi. Like I mentioned kind of a few minutes ago, some of these storms could produce some hail and some gusty winds. I would not be surprised one bit if they do. And then we get into this later tonight, into the morning hours of tomorrow morning. Some showers could be drifting through Kansas from the northwest into northwest Oklahoma. North central U.S., a system flying down from the north will promote a lot of scattered convection this afternoon. This is around 4 or 5 p.m. this afternoon. You got some heavier bursts of rain, probably some grapple, some small hail with some of these showers and storms are definitely possible in South Dakota and North Dakota. This is all just rain up here in northern Minnesota. You're slowly getting to that time of the year where it's more rain than snow. And you guys have had a lot of late season snows. It was a very active March, but I think we're going to start to slowly get away from all that, because even though we're going to have some cold pushes of air over the next week or so up here, and we could have some late season snow again, we're working against time at this point. We're just getting deeper into the year, but would not be surprised if we get some intense storms that are possible that could produce a lot of hail. Maybe not large hail, but a lot of hail, and these kind of setups are possible. Northern Nebraska, don't be surprised one bit if we get some storm action. And then some showers drift through Minnesota, start to enter, especially heavier showers probably in northeast Minnesota as we get into the overnight hours. Then we get into the wee hours of the morning. And some of these showers will try to drift into northern Wisconsin, places like that. But the northern plains, guys, definitely watch for some stronger storms in Wyoming today. Could mix with some snow in the higher elevations, maybe some thunder snow. But some of these areas could certainly get some intense storm action in southeast Wyoming, western Nebraska. Some hail is possible with these and gusty winds. Don't let these catch you by surprise. It's certainly possible. But snow in the higher elevations of Wyoming and the northern mountainous areas of Colorado in this region as we get into the overnight hours. Maybe even a little snow in Denver overnight tonight. Temperatures today, warm in Florida. Florida will be the warmest. Warm along the Gulf coastline, warm and humid. More dry, kind of spring-type temperatures once you get into the Mid-South. Beautiful spring day in the Ohio Valley. in the Midwest especially, where you won't be dealing with really any rain action, but clouds will increase in the mid-Atlantic probably later this afternoon, this evening, ahead of our rain moving in from the southwest that we talked about. Cooler day in the Northeast. It's always hard to lose, and in the Great Lakes region, it's always hard to just lose the grip of winter up here in the Northeast in the spring. It really takes you getting deep into May for you guys to really start substantially warming up, but that's not always the case. Where we got, it somehow hit 96 degrees, I believe, in Connecticut or Massachusetts a couple weeks ago. I have no idea how that happened, but here we are. But pretty much find your state. That's how warm we're going to be today, how cool we can be. A little bit of rain, cooled air in Oklahoma, southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, southern areas of Kansas. And again, another coolish day in the Carolinas. Like yesterday was kind of a weird day in South Carolina where the upstate northern portions of the state didn't get out the 50s, but central Midlands and areas, southern portions of the state got into the 70s. So just depends on clouds, wedge. Tomorrow, an area of severe thunderstorms are possible, marginal risk. This is exactly what I talked about, how things could upgrade. Would not be surprised if someone upgrades to a slight risk in the southeast tomorrow. We'll watch this right now, level 1 out of 5, from Florida all the way to North Carolina. Then we have another enhanced risk for central to north Texas. Tornado threat's a 5% risk, wind threat 15, but the hail threat's going to be pretty large again. It just keeps on hitting you guys in Texas. So the tornado threat did not materialize much yesterday. I think there was a couple reports of some tornadoes, but there was no strong tornadoes, thankfully. It didn't get too bad around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but certain areas did get some massive, massive hail in Texas for sure. And then we'll watch Saturday. Another area of severe thunderstorms possible. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this goes to a slight risk. It's just kind of one of those setups where it uptrends as we get closer. A lot of rain, guys. A lot of rain expected this weekend. This is starting Friday morning. You got a big blob of rain. Some of this could be storm action down here. Low pressure flying and cutting west of the Appalachian Mountains. A lot of rain moves up. It's going to be a rainy morning, rainy afternoon, rainy evening for a lot of people in the eastern U.S., and then we're getting into Saturday. A lot of this rain will move into the Northeast, and you're thinking, okay, well, we're done with it, right? Nope. Here comes another system. This could really be a washout for areas further south. But where does this low pressure ride over? It always shows multiple low pressures, but where does this low pressure ride over right here? It could be a stronger one. If it rides further northwest, then a sector of ingredients could be inland to create severe weather along the eastern Carolinas for Sunday. But we got to watch this regardless. This is getting into Sunday afternoon. A lot of rain expected this weekend, and then we get into Monday, and you're still dealing with showers, even some snow up here in northern Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. Rain between now and the morning of May 2nd. A lot of rain expected. This is the blend of all models. Got this weird gap right here where nobody gets anything here in Missouri, western Illinois, and southeast Iowa. But, I'll take this rain, honestly. We definitely need it in the Carolinas in certain areas. But a lot of rain could fall along the I-95 corridor all the way up to Maine. So that's all I got, guys. I do apologize that the energy is not there. It's not really a lack of motivation. One is I had a heck of a workout this morning with my buddies. We do this thing called the F3 group. Some of you folks might have heard of it. And I meet every Thursday. And man, the workout this morning was brutal, and it took a lot out of me. For you folks that don't know, I'm big on working out. I'm not some bodybuilder or anything, but I definitely work out multiple times a week just to keep my health up. But the flow has been weird over the last week. Have not been able to just get a good flow of things. And it just happens, guys. I go through little stages like this, and then go through a couple weeks where it's just I hop on, I push start, and I don't hesitate. I roll right through it, 20 minutes, and I'm done. So, but anyways, God bless all y'all, and you guys have a safe day out there, and I'll be with you this evening.